My boss leaned closer and whispered, "Dance with me. My ex is watching. The reward is a kiss." The music swelled. Chandeliers glittered above us. Across the ballroom, her ex-husband laughed with a woman young enough to be his daughter. I was a single father, counting minutes until I could go home to tuck my child into bed. I wasn't supposed to be part of her revenge. I met her eyes and said quietly, "You can do better than this." That was the moment everything changed. The Riverstone Grand Hotel ballroom smelled like expensive perfume and ambition. Crystal chandeliers cast geometric shadows across marble floors, where 200 people in formal wear pretended to enjoy themselves. I stood near a pillar, checking my watch for the fourth time in 10 minutes. 7:30. Lily's bedtime was 8. I'm Daniel Reed, Senior Operations Manager at Cascade Industries. Father to a 7-year-old girl who thinks bedtime stories are negotiable. Widower for 3 years, though I rarely use that word. It makes people uncomfortable at work events. "You look like you're planning an escape route." The voice belonged to Marcus Chen, finance director, and the only other person here who understood why I kept glancing at the exit. "Babysitter charges time and a half after 9, I said. Marcus laughed. "Honest answer." "I like it." He nodded toward the center of the room. "She's watching you, by the way." I didn't need to ask who. Catherine Hart commanded attention without trying. Our CEO stood surrounded by board members, her posture perfect, her smile calibrated. Navy dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back in a way that said, "I don't have time for complications." I'd worked under Catherine for 2 years. She was brilliant, demanding, and completely opaque. In meetings, she remembered every detail. She praised good work and dismantled weak arguments with surgical precision. But I'd never seen her laugh. Not really. Not the kind of laugh that reaches your eyes. "She's had a rough week," Marcus said quietly. "Did you hear about the divorce finalization?" I hadn't. Catherine kept her personal life locked away tighter than the executive suite. "That's her business. You're one of the good ones, Reed." Marcus clapped my shoulder. "Most people here are already spinning narratives." The truth was, I didn't belong in this world of networking and hidden agendas. I came to these events because they were part of the job. I shook hands, made appropriate small talk, and left as soon as professionally acceptable. My real life happened in a small apartment where we built model rockets at the kitchen table. Where bedtime meant reading 3 chapters of The Wild Robot and answering impossible questions like, "Dad, do robots dream?" Catherine's laugh cut through the ambient noise. It was her professional laugh, the one she deployed for major shareholders. Across the room, she stood with Preston Vance, our board chairman, while he told some story that required large hand gestures. I checked my watch again. "You know, she specifically requested you be here tonight," Marcus said. That made me look up. "What?" "Your name was on her list of required attendees. Usually, senior ops can skip these things." Before I could process that information, the music changed. A string quartet had been providing forgettable background ambiance all evening, but now they shifted to something slower, more deliberate. Couples began moving toward the designated dance floor area. Catherine extracted herself from Preston's orbit. She moved through the crowd with purpose, stopping briefly to acknowledge various executives. Her trajectory was clear. She was walking toward me. "Good luck," Marcus murmured, fading away with the survival instinct of someone who'd worked in corporate politics for 15 years. Catherine stopped 3 feet away. Up close, I could see the tension around her eyes, barely visible beneath flawless makeup. "Daniel, I'm glad you could make it, Miss Hart." I kept my tone professional. "Catherine," she corrected. "We're not in the office." The correction felt significant, though I wasn't sure why. Behind her, I caught sight of a man in an expensive tuxedo. Late 50s, silver hair, confident smile. He had his arm around a woman who looked barely 30, Catherine's ex-husband. Had to be. She followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Her mask slipped for just a second. I saw something raw underneath. Pain, humiliation, rage. Then the mask returned. "I need to ask you something," she said. Catherine Hart's reputation preceded her wherever she went. At 38, she'd taken Cascade Industries from regional obscurity to national prominence. Business magazines called her the strategist who never blinks. Forbes featured her in their 40 Under 40 issue with the headline, "How Catherine Hart Built an Empire on Precision." What they didn't write about was the divorce. Thomas Whitmore, venture capitalist and serial entrepreneur, had been her husband for 7 years. They'd been the power couple of Riverstone City's business scene. Then, 6 months ago, everything imploded. The details were sealed by aggressive NDAs, but rumors circulated anyway. Infidelity. Financial disagreements. A prenup battle that left lawyers wealthy. I only knew because my daughter's teacher, Mrs. Brennan, loved gossip and had mentioned it during parent-teacher conferences. Can you imagine? Finding out your husband had been, well, I shouldn't say. But that poor woman. I'd changed the subject to Lily's science project. Now, standing in front of Catherine at this gala, I understood why she'd seemed more brittle in recent meetings, why she'd snapped at Gerald Morrison last week for a minor reporting error, then apologized immediately after, why she sometimes stared out her office window for long minutes, forgetting anyone was there. "You need to ask me something," I repeated, prompting her. She glanced over her shoulder. Thomas was watching us now. The woman on his arm, Blair, something, an Instagram influencer who'd recently launched a lifestyle brand, laughed at something, he said. The sound was performative, designed to carry. "I need a favor," Catherine said. Her voice was controlled, but I heard the hairline fracture underneath. "It's somewhat unorthodox."